Hey y'all, welcome back to the lab. In this video, we're going to be discussing Notion and data loss and privacy. Should you be worried about losing or leaking your notes? So for the past couple months, I've been hopping between Notion and Obsidian for note-taking. You can find my reasons for trying out Obsidian and then moving back to Notion here. First, my Notion to Obsidian journey, and then my back to Notion journey. A recent post went semi-viral in r/Notion about data loss and privacy titled, "Notion will ban your account for no reason and keep your data," all caps, which is related to some of the concerns that I had about cloud versus local first note-taking apps, so I thought I'd write up my findings and share them out here. So what happened with this Notion takedown? First, we should get the facts straight about what happened here so we can discuss the implications. Basically, the user was building a public page that allows people to directly sell airline miles and rewards to other people. This is likely a violation of Notion's terms of service and definitely the airline and rewards program's terms of service. They were also potentially mishandling PII, depends on, the jurisdiction and how many people were actually signed up for this stuff and how those transactions were taking place, which is also a violation of Notion's terms of service because Notion would then be liable for hosting this stuff. And so bottom line is they were doing something shady with Notion's public page feature. Notion found out and shut it down. So what does this mean for you and your notes? It means a few things. First, on data privacy, Notion can and will look at data in your notes. And second, on data loss, Notion can and will action on the data in your notes, including removing access to and deleting your data. Now, one caveat here is that this was a public note that led to these actions, but there's potential that they could do this for private notes as well. And if I had to guess, I would say they do have automatic detection for bad things in notes, even private notes, that are illegal everywhere. Think bad images and videos, to avoid being a host for these things so they don't get embroiled in large lawsuits. This kind of auto detection is common across basically any internet service as a way to follow the law and avoid lawsuits, so it's not just Notion that's doing these things. Now, should you be worried about this? So the simple answer is yes. Your notes can be snooped on and you could lose your data forever. But you should also keep this in perspective. The same thing could happen in most other solutions you might choose to use, so you should consider whether the risk prevention is worth the extra effort. So here's some examples of this. First is that each note service has its own data privacy risks. So any backup service you use for your notes or data will have its own terms of service and likely its own auto detection for bad things. So if you choose a local first note-taking app, but then proceed to back it up to GitHub or Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever your service of choice is, then you're likely falling back into the same data privacy issues. The second is that local first tools like Obsidian have their own problems in the forms of plugins. One of the benefits of these things is that they are very bare bones, but because they're so bare bones, you're likely going to install these plugins or these extra libraries from other people to get it up to speed and looking the way that you want. And your computer is probably not yet snooping on all the files you create, although with the advent of AI, especially computer-based AI, that's probably going to change soon. But each plugin you add to your editor adds another vector of supply chain risk where a compromise could lead to silent data exfiltration. So a different vector of attack, certainly, but one that still exists nonetheless. Now on data loss, each note service has its own data loss risks. So any backup service you use for your notes or data could incur catastrophic failure and lose data. It's unlikely, but it could happen. Big Cloud, Google, Dropbox, Microsoft, etc. typically have great redundant backups, but they're not infallible. And there could always be corruption with merging changes from multiple devices. Built-in backups have the same problems. I've seen corruption reports from those backing up Obsidian with both the built-in sync and sync thing, and those using any types of built-in sync. And so just because you're not using Big Cloud doesn't necessarily mean that those backups are going to be more reliable, and in general, typically means the opposite. Offline backups have their own risks. Your computer may die, corrupting the drive, which is, why we make backups in general, because we can't trust these 1 bits of hardware to last a very long time. So if you're making your own backups, it is offline, you're avoiding this risk from big tech, but again, your drives might get corrupted, or more probably, you just end up losing them and you don't know where the data is, or you accidentally overwrite it when you're trying to back up something else. This is the same outcome, just a different path for getting there. And so what can you do about all this? So there are a few things I've thought about doing in response to this incident. The first is to use a different app, and I tried Obsidian for 6 weeks, but ultimately concluded that Notion's ergonomics outweighed these data risks, particularly if I implemented a few mitigations. But your mileage may vary. You might enjoy another app more, and that gives you more of these guarantees. So if that's the case, it's at least worth trying some of these out. You can also back up your data regularly. If you're worried about data loss, you can implement a regular backup system. If you're really paranoid, you can back up to multiple providers, though this does increase your privacy risk. What I'm going to do is start doing a quarterly backup so that I get peace of mind without over-indexing on a rare outcome. I don't think moving to like a daily backup, especially a manual daily backup, makes sense given this probably isn't going to happen, but if quarterly or even yearly makes you feel better, might as well do that. The next thing I'm going to do is just not put sensitive data in the cloud. No cloud service, no matter how secure, is infallible. There's always a chance a bug or hack ends up leaking stuff, or a rogue agent in the company snoops on data they shouldn't. Most of these cloud companies give their workers, especially like software engineers, a lot of access to data because it's needed to debug things. So there could always a chance that a rogue agent is in there and is exfiltrating data. And so if it's really sensitive, consider not uploading or digitizing this stuff at all. Even local files have a risk if you download a virus, or there's a supply chain attack, or the latest AI decides to turn into a data vacuum. Always ask yourself if it would be okay for this data to leak in a data breach, and if not, consider leaving it offline. And finally, don't do sketchy things. Avoid being under the spotlight of Notion's or your service of choice's terms of service team. Don't host sketchy files or run weird businesses on Notion. Do that somewhere else, like on your own servers, though most hosting providers have similar TOS, so if they find out, they're probably going to shut it down the same as Notion would. Better yet, just don't do the sketchy thing. If you think it would come under scrutiny, it's likely partially illegal anyway. Next. So I've decided the risks don't outweigh the benefits for my notes, so I'm continuing on with Notion, but everyone should think about this and consider what their risk appetite is. So if you like this post, you might also like why I'm moving back to Notion from Obsidian for personal notes, my simple daily to-do list as a software engineer, and finally, what's the best value VPS provider, price to performance ratio. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.